What's up, guys? We are back with another review, and we're taking a look at the latest figure from AxyToys. This is the AxyToys Devil figure, and I know this guy has had a little bit of a contentious history because of what it is, or maybe isn't, I suppose. And I know that folks were concerned if it was even going to come out, but I can assure you that it is coming out. This is one of, what, 2 variants, I think. There's a red one. This is the black one. It comes in pretty standard packaging for what we've seen with, like, the dinosaur battlefield figures that they do. So you've just got a big box with a window. It's got this little belt that wraps around it, basically, with this sort of artwork. You've got product shots of both figures on the back, and then you've got his name on the side panels. Nothing too crazy in terms of packaging, but we're not here for a box. We're here for a figure, so yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our AxyToys Devil figure. Not that other guy that you might be thinking about. This is the Devil. And this is, I believe, one of 4 different versions. Like, there's 2 versions that have soft goods on them. We've got the black one, the gray one. I guess it's gray, really, right? So we've got this guy. We've also got a red one, which I don't have. But then there were also naked ones that I recall seeing that don't have the soft goods. And I don't know that they come with all of the accessories, like all the chains and everything that we'll get to here in a bit. But this is the deluxe version, and this is a monster of a figure. He's big, he's beefy, but he's also incredibly heavy, and I can't stress that enough. This thing has some serious weight to it. It still does move pretty well, though, and I think, if anything, has an insane amount of shelf presence. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. You've got a head that is kind of locked down. He can go up and down a little bit. You can swivel side to side, but his neck crooks forward a bit, so when you sort of swivel it, he's off kilter a bit. You do have a really, really good rocker side to side, so you've got some attitude on him. The hair can swivel because it's just a separate piece. Arms out at the shoulders, all the way. They, of course, rotate. Kind of tight. Everything is kind of tight on this guy. Most of it is not tight in a bad way. It's tight, which is okay. For a figure that's this heavy, I think that's all right. He does have a butterfly joint here. These seem a little on the tight side also. You've got bicep swivel. We've got single jointed elbows. These do also have a little bit of shimmy side to side. They don't exactly rotate all the way. They're about 90. They seem fairly close to 90, if that. You've got ball hinges at the wrist, so it goes up and down in any direction, of course, and then you've got rotation there. He's got a diaphragm cut, so he swivels up there. You've got some tilt side to side, and you've got forward and backward. The waist is also a ball peg, so you've got swivel there, and then you've got really nice tilt overall, and forward and backward crunch, pretty good. Again, he's a big beefy figure, so I think he still moves fairly well for what he's offering now. Legs are going to go out about this far. He does have pants on him. That's always going to be a problem for a figure with pants, but I think he moves okay. They kick forward about that far. It's not perfect. They kick backwards slightly. There is a twist up there. You've got double jointed knees. The pants do not get in the way of those, thankfully. That's really good range there. And then you've got really, really nice rocker down at those ankles. Really tight ankle hinges, but tight but smooth, if that makes sense. Like, they move really well, but they do hold him up nicely. And you've also got toe articulation that is really tight also. But again, all of this stuff that's really tight, save for maybe the butterfly joints, because they seem exceptionally tight for me. Everything is tight in a good way. Like, I don't feel like this guy's going to go toppling over just by looking at him the wrong way, or, you know, kind of sneering at him funny. He's not going to fall over just because you're in the same room as him. He definitely has some weight, but I feel like a lot of these joints have good tolerance on them to the point where he is going to be still very sturdy, but also pretty poseable. Now, all that said about the articulation, the main draw for this figure, for me anyway, is the visuals and the aesthetic. This figure may look very similar to an older figure that came out a long time ago that I honestly have never seen fully assembled in person. Never seen it, never encountered it, so I certainly don't own it, right? This figure, I think, is going to fill maybe a little bit of a hole in someone's collection. It's going to give you a very big, beefy, monstrous figure on your shelf, and that's kind of where I'm going at it. This guy just looks cool. This big devil figure just looks cool. He's also got an insane shelf presence. The sculpt on this thing is really tremendous. I really, really like this big, beefy body style. Obviously, you can take the clothes off if you want. I'm not going to go that far as to do all of that. I feel like the selling point for this particular version is what he looks like right now with the, you know, the ripped sort of jeans and the jean jacket kind of thing going on. I do like the soft goods. They're not perfect. The pants in particular, they look a little weak to me. I do like the jacket though. The collar is wired, so you can sort of pose that a little bit. The zipper does also work, and you can zip it up closed on this figure. It didn't really take any effort at all either. I thought it might be a little too small and that it would look, you know, like he's wearing, you know, his child's clothing or something like that. Fat guy in a little coat kind of thing, but it didn't happen here. It's able to be zipped up just fine, but the overall idea with this figure is this big looming monster. Sculpt on him is terrific. Paint is also really, really well done, and there is a lot of shading all over the musculature. This guy is just rippling and, of course, you know, really puffed up, really beefy, super vascular, tons of veins everywhere. And I really, really like all the shading on him. He's got a lot of grays, of course, but a lot of differing hues of gray. So you've got, you know, a light to a dark kind of thing across the figure. And he, of course, you know, as I've said, he is very big. He's got a huge shelf presence. So I'm not going to go crazy with comparisons. Let's just do one right here, get it out of the way. Wolverine, this is one of the more recent Wolverines from Hasbro. He's absolutely dwarfed by him. And of course, you know, Logan's not a tall guy, but I mean, this is a humongous figure. I can't stress that enough. It's very big. It's got a tremendous amount of shelf presence. And I think it looks just really cool. This is a really cool, fun looking figure. If you want a big monster kind of guy, whether you have any interest in what this may or may not look like from lines gone past, this figure will, you know, kind of be this big menacing presence or just a big generic hulking, no pun intended, villain that's kind of on your shelf. The head sculpt is also really well done. I love the furrowed brow, this sort of maniacal expression that he's got going on. What I really like in particular about the face, though, is the teeth and the gums. They are a decidedly wet look. And when it comes to comparing them to the rest of the figure, they're very glossy. They have a very, very shiny finish, so it kind of pops. And those teeth specifically really draw your attention in from the rest of the figure. He's also got these very sunken eyes. You got the big red eyes. One thing I'm going to say to watch out for with this figure, not necessarily in the sense that it's a bad thing or it's something that's going to go wrong, these little wisps of hair on his head, they're very fragile. I think they're possibly going to pop out or be broken if you're not paying attention to them. So just, you know, just word to the wise, pay attention when you're messing with him. He does come with a mask, so you might want to watch out when you're putting that mask on specifically. But everything about this figure from top to bottom, I think looks really good. Some of the soft goods with the jeans in particular, I think maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, but they do fit him really well. They've got sort of an elastic band at the top, so they cinch around his waist. I've not had any issues with them drooping or falling down. The jacket also sits really nicely. He's got this big patch on his back. This is the same thing that's on the box, that little belt strap thing that wraps around the box. This is what's on the patch here, so that's kind of, you know, stamped on the back there. I guess it's probably like a glue or an iron-on kind of patch kind of thing. But it looks really good. I'm overall very, very happy with this guy in hand, from the overall feel to the size to specifically the weight. You know, it's a big, bulky, beefy figure, but there's a lot of detail packed into this sculpt. Kind of a generic hulking monster type body, but it works really well with these clothes on him, and that head really caps him off to something a little bit evil looking. Now, as far as accessories goes, our Devil has honestly quite a bit, and it's all pretty interesting. Some of it's really weird, too. Weird in just kind of a, I guess, interesting, weird kind of way. So to start with, we have what I suspect are going to be the things that people really want on this guy, and that would be the chains. So there are 3 individual chains in the box, and then there's actually 2 more that we'll get to in a second. So you've got 1 around the waist, and then you've got 2 for the ankles. These are, you know, actual chains. They will wrap around the limb or the waist, and then what I did was just take some needle nose pliers, pry one end apart, and attach it to the other. So it's actually on the figure rather than just sort of being loosely on the body. You can easily take it off, but just for, you know, purpose of display, I figured that's how you'd want to do it. There's not exactly instructions or anything for what they intend you to do, but that's what I did. You know, your mileage may vary, of course, but I think it adds a cool factor. I don't know a better way to say it. It adds a cool factor to be able to have this guy covered in chains. That's pretty neat, right? And then he also includes, well, he includes 2 of these. And these are where the other 2 chains come from. These are the chains that you would wrap around his wrists. So you've got 2 of these. And these are metal. They're about 4 or 5, maybe 6 inches long. They are not sharp, but I mean, look at them. They're absolutely capable of doing some damage, so be careful. My daughter got a hold of one of these and immediately wanted to just spin it around the room. So don't let your kids have these, because that's how they put an eye out. But this is really cool. I mean, it's a very nasty looking weapon. He holds it okay, and this kind of goes back to my issue with the hands. They are incredibly hard. The hands are super, super, super rigid and very hard, so you're going to want to heat them up. You might be able to sort of shimmy this into his hands here, but I would heat them up. Just, for safety's sake. But then you've also got this chain that you can wrap around his wrist or his forearm to cinch it on and kind of lock it onto him, basically. And again, like I said, you do get 2 of those. Those are his sole weapons as well. There are no other weapons to speak of with this guy. He does include some extra hands also, and they are both sort of grappling kind of hands. So you get a set of these, which are full on, like, grappling style hands. And then you get these very style posy kind of hands. They're monstrous things. Big old hands. Tons of paint apps on them too. The one thing that I find odd that is missing here, there are no fists. There's no fists with this figure. Of such a big, beefy guy, you would think he would have fists. It's not the end of the world, but I wish he had them. And then that brings me to probably the one big gripe with this figure that I have is swapping hands. It is damn near impossible to swap these hands. So I'm going to urge an abundance of caution when you try to take these hands off. Even after hair dryers and almost boiling water, they still did not want to come off. And I know it's not unique to my figure. I've talked to other folks that already have this guy. It's just a thing. It's one of 2 problems, best I can tell. Either the hands have holes in them that are too small, or the pegs, and the pegs on these hands are big, on the wrist joints anyway, are just too big. They are very, very tight. The tolerance is pretty crazy on this, so just watch out. You might have to sort of wrench it to get it off of there. I had to put way too much effort into taking these hands off than I was comfortable with. I'm very certain that with the wrong amount of heat, or a lack of heat, you're going to break the peg. So just be careful. Watch what you're doing when you're swapping these hands. Maybe it'll loosen itself up over time, but right out of the box, that's one of my big concerns, and probably my only real issue with this figure is the difficulty in which it is to swap the hands. So other than that, I think he is pretty solid. We do get a bunch of other stuff as well. This is the mask that I mentioned. So you've got this. It has an elastic band on it. It's pretty tight, so watch when you're putting it over the head. This is kind of, I mentioned the little wisps of hair. I was kind of worried that it was going to just be too tight on them, so watch what you're doing. But this is pretty cool. It's like some weird half skull thing with a red X on it. It looks neat. Fits on him pretty well once you can get it around that hair piece. That's kind of cool. I do like that. And then you also get a bunch of these little, they have, some of them have skulls in them as well. These little effect parts that you can put in the chains. That's how they're shown on the box art anyway. So you'd kind of loop them in one of those links here and there, and it looks like some sort of, nether, ethereal kind of energy coming out of them. There's about 8 or 9 of these things, and they come in various shapes and sizes. You got really tiny ones, and then you got some of these that are bigger, and they all have sort of like a black wash in them too, just to make them pop a little bit. So you have this sort of like evil energy that's going to come out of his chains once you've got him fully kitted out. So this big guy does have a lot of accessories. I really like the chains. It completely transforms the look. As dangerous as these are, I really like those also. The mask is cool. I like the energy effects. The only thing to really watch out for is swapping those hands. And again, I kind of wish, well, I really wish that he had some fists. So yeah, overall, this guy is really cool. It's a lot of fun. And if anything, I've just had a lot of fun playing with him. Like that's what it's all about ultimately, right? Is to get a figure out of the box and just have fun playing with it. And I really had a hard time putting him down since I got him out of the box. He's not perfect, right? Some articulation is a little bit limited. Some things are maybe a little bit too tight, but overall, most of the joints do move really, really well while being slightly tight, but also very smooth. I think the soft goods are okay. They aren't like Mezco level or anything like that, I don't think, but they do look really good on this figure. He's humongous, he's beefy, he's got a lot of paint apps, he's got a lot of sculpted detail all over him. The one real detractor for me with this figure is ultimately going to be kind of a stupid thing for me, that's something I normally don't harp about, is the ability to swap hands. It's just so damn hard on this figure to swap these hands. I'm really worried that I'm going to break him just by doing that. Even with tremendous amounts of heat, I think it's going to be a problem for people to swap these hands. But otherwise, I mean, once you get all the chains on him and all that stuff and all the bits and bobs, he looks absolutely wild. So that's going to do it for this look at the AxyToys Devil figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.